The following is intended only for mature audiences. Always consult legal and medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised.
From a an energetic standpoint, anything physical in the body that sets up as an illness stems from an energetic perspective to begin with. So how are these things impacting our chakras? How is it internalizing?
I guess we'll call it the awakening time where they're more aware. Oh my gosh, I can tell my dog, my cat's acting funny, or I'm feeling like I'm being watched. Mm-hmm. And they're more aware than they are most of the time. I mean, it's like...
That's right. A lot of them for me. I had a little girl come to me. I was at church. And that was the first really...
And all of a sudden, within a couple of days' time, somebody's either lost their job or somebody's car broke down. You know, these are the accidental sides of manifest. The following is intended only for mature audiences. Always consult legal and medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. I'm going to cut right into the show, and Pat's going to laugh at me. It never fails that somewhere along the line, I always have some minor glitch of something going on. And this evening of all evenings, I didn't really want that, but this evening, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please welcome Nancy Gardner in the upper left-hand side. She is our special guest this evening. She's going to be talking about walking the medicine wheel. And I'll tell you, honestly, if everything is just out of whack, it's just even looking at some of the things that she had. I just sat here spellbound listening to her talking, and that wasn't even getting into the meat and potatoes of what she was going to talk about. Also on the show this evening, down on the bottom left-hand side, is Reverend Pat Beers, and over on the bottom right is Stephanie. Ladies, how are you this evening?
Great. Fine, Michael. Good.
Wonderful.
I am.
Beautiful day here.
I am glad to hear that. This evening, like I said, we have Nancy is going to be talking about, and she has a lot of information that she is going to be speaking about. So if you would, Nancy, just in a brief overview before you get into everything,
yes.
Can you tell us what the medicine wheel is before you really start to talk about it?
Yes. Very simply put, the medicine wheel is a circle. The wheel or hoop has been used by nearly all indigenous peoples around the world. The wheel illustrates religious and societal teachings. It's a tool for aligning with the seasons of the year. It's a tool for tracking chronological events and genealogy, as well as planetary and astrological occurrences. When we specifically talk about a medicine wheel, medicine means wisdom or essence. It also refers to anything that improves one's connection to all of life and to the understanding of the great mystery.
And that, there was so much that you started to convey to me, even just in trying to set things up, that it was just unreal. And I am busy changing our title bar, even as we are going along, because I got so caught up in trying to get things set up this evening that I'm like, I forgot. We're going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take, really. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to switch over, Nancy, to what we had set up previously, and I'll let you go ahead and start talking about the wheel
Great.
in and of itself.
Okay. What we're talking about tonight, or the tradition that I learned, is from Sun Bear. And Sun Bear's wheel is a 36-stone wheel. And every single stone that we place has specific significance. It relates to an astrological sign, perhaps, elementals, direction, color, plant, mineral. And this Sun Bear's wheel, Sun Bear is of a Chippewa descent, and he formed the Bear tribe. This is his wheel. Now, other tribes had other traditions and perhaps different significance to the different directions or various meanings to the different stones, depending on their specific tradition. So the wheel we're primarily talking about, or we're going to start with tonight, is Sun Bear's 36 stone wheel.
Go right ahead. I've got your first picture already up
I
and
don't
waiting for
see
you.
it though. Will you make it so I can see it too?
There's not a way that I can do that easily. That's why you and I had spoken, and I was trying to say we're just going to go through it as because right now is the first stone, the Creator Stone.
Okay, so the Creator Stone is in the center. When we're setting a medicine wheel, we are doing a ceremony. And so in any ceremony, first permission is asked by spirit to even do this ceremony. And then all of the participants, the surrounding area, all the materials that are going to be used are smudged or cleansed with smoke. So everything is done very ceremonially. A ceremony could have song, it has prayer, it has laughter, humor, dance. All of those are elements of ceremony. So I think it's kind of important to share some of this before we go into each one of the stones. Again, ceremony is a way for humans to give back some of the energy that they or we are always receiving. So we start with the Creator from which all life begins, and that is in the center. Then we have the sacred family, and that is Earth Mother, Father Sun, and Grandmother Moon. Since I can't see those, you tell me or not, and
Yep.
I'll know to go on. The next ones we call the elemental clans. So the next ones are earth, water, fire, and air. Now let me back up just a little bit and say that all of these have other significance too. Each one of these stones I'm going to talk about has to do with a different animal also. I think it would be a little bit too much for just this first setting. So we'll just go with the earth, water, fire, and air are the elementals, which also means that each of us is found in that center circle as well by our astrological sign. We are all either earth, water, fire, or air signs. We go to the next ones outside that center circle, and we set the 4 directions. In Sun Bear's tradition, the way he taught it was we always enter from the east. What's actually kind of interesting is that in his workbook, he has us starting from the north. But when he taught it to the elders from whom I learned the work, we enter from the east. So east is dawn, it is our childhood, and it is the eagle. Eagle flies highest, and so eagle is spirit. The next one, we move in a clockwise direction or sunwise. So the next one is the south, and that is coyote. And the south is summer, it is midday, it is our adolescent or young adult period. We move on to the west, and that is grizzly bear. I don't remember if I said that, but south is coyote. I like the animals, so I'll throw a few of those in there. So we have eagle in the east, coyote in the south, grizzly bear in the west. West is autumn. It is the twilight time of day and our adult period of life. Then we move to north, and north is white buffalo. North is winter. It is midnight. It is the elder and also newborn period of life. So those are the 4 directions, the 4 seasons that are the 4 corners of our wheel.
I have one quick question as we go, since we're right at this point.
Yes.
We'd spoken, the east is also purpose?
Self. Yes.
Okay.
So let's do those. East is self. South is family. West is relationships. And north is purpose.
Thank you.
And we'll talk later about simplified wheels. I think that everything in life can fall under one of those 4 different categories. It's either self, family, relationships, or purpose. And they work very well together, and they work very well as an axis, balancing off of each other as well.
Thank you.
If we're ready for the outer circle then. The first stones we set, now remember, we're starting in the spring, and what sign is in the spring? It's Aries. So each of the outer stones that create the outer circle also relate to our astrological signs. In this tradition, we talk about the different moons. So I wore my moon shirt. because we're talking about the moons. So the first one is budding trees. So what happens in the spring? We have budding trees, frogs return, and corn planting. Those are Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. And again, the names of the moons describe what is happening during that season. And then we move to the second quadrant, where we have Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. What's happening in the summer? Strong sun, then ripe berries, and then harvest. When we move to the next quadrant, we have Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Their moons are ducks fly, freeze up, and long snows. We move to the last quadrant, and we have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And those are earth renewal, rest and cleansing, and big winds. So those describe, the moons describe what's happening in our seasons. And it is also where each of us comes into this life walk, into our particular sign. We're not intended to just come in and be only in that one spot. Of course, we're going to walk the wheel of life. We're going to learn, we're going to grow, we age, we go through different stages. We experience the energies of all the different signs. Hopefully not just walking around and around in a circle. We spiral, we learn, and we also know that we need to be in relationship with spirit, with creator. So the next stones that we place are the pathways in and out, to creator and back out. So the first three, again, we start with our signs. So the first three, starting in the east, we have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. With the pathways now, we have particular words that go with them, as well as animals and other things. But for tonight, I'm going to just focus on the words. Aries is clarity, Taurus is wisdom, and Gemini is illumination. Clarity, wisdom, illumination. That is the Eastern pathway to spirit. The next pathway, the Southern pathway, is Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. We have growth, trust, and love. The next pathway, we have Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. The words that go with those are experience, introspection, and strength. The last pathway, we have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. They are cleansing, renewal, and purity. One of the most beautiful things when I was learning this work was that when the last stone is placed, we invoke the energy of all medicine wheels that have ever been set since time began. It just gives me chills even just to think about that, and all the experiences even just I had with the community with whom I learned this work, and just to imagine that I'm connecting with all indigenous peoples who have set their wheels in whatever formation. It's pretty powerful.
That's an amazing fact all to itself.
Yes.
And now, for people to understand a little bit about the show's title, Walking the Wheel, Nancy has, and she'll be able to explain actually walking a medicine wheel.
Yes. So the illustration now, yeah, the illustration of the photo. Okay, illustration. We always enter from the east. So we enter from the east, walk the eastern pathway back out to the outer circle. We walk around the outer circle to the southern pathway. We walk in that pathway, back out of that pathway. We go around. We walk in the western pathway, back out. And then we go around to the northern pathway. We walk in, we walk out, and back around to the eastern pathway. We can walk that any number of times that we want, depending on how much time you want, what your intention is. At our conferences in Virginia Beach, early on when I first started going, we would do all-night vision quests. And one gal said, before I joined the community, that she spent the whole night walking the wheel in that manner, and she walked it for every year of her life. And maybe she was like 60, so walk 60 times that way. And then we walk it sunwise to wind up the wheel. Well, after she did that, then to unwind the wheel, she walked it the same number of times in the reverse direction. So backing up just a little bit, when we set this wheel, we enter from the east, we walk clockwise, we place a stone, we walk around the wheel, we exit. We come back in, we place a stone, we walk around the wheel, we exit. So every time and every stone, we place it, we walk around, we exit, every single stone. And then after the ceremony is complete, unless we are setting a permanent wheel or one that's going to stay up for any time of duration, when the ceremony is over, we unwind the wheel by starting with the last stone that was placed until we unwind that energy back to creator and then remove that creator stone. Very powerful ceremony.
Now, while I have this particular illustration up, and I'll ask simply because I know other people are thinking much the same, what is the purpose for walking in this very particular manner?
Well, it could be said of walking any medicine wheel. I mean, the general purposes of walking the wheel. Walking the wheel slows us down so that we can become more fully aware of life around us. Walking the wheel helps us to access and connect with all of the energies of the universe because they are all found on that wheel. Walking the wheel opens us to greater self-awareness, and it supports us in our life journeys as we learn and grow and change. And this is what I really appreciate the most. Walking the wheel shows us that even though we approach life from different perspectives, we can do so in harmony.
And that is something that I know a lot of people, and especially in today's world, would benefit from.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to put up a picture that you had said, if I'm not mistaken, that this individual picture is Crown Point?
Yes. It is Crown Point Ecology Center, and it is an organic farm, and it actually was started by the Dominican sisters, who I actually teach an exercise class to every week. I love these ladies. And it's an organic farm, and it is a consumer CSA where anyone can join the CSA. They can put time in with the weeding or whatever, or you buy a membership, and during the harvest time, you come and get your portion of the proceeds or the harvest. They also do a lot of programming for kids, and they teach kids about growing. I mean, some of our kids don't really realize where our food comes from. And at the end of some of their programs, I was out there once when they were having the kids do a little farmer's market and these cute little kid-sized baskets, and they had play money. And when their parents came, they had to learn to make change as their parents bought the vegetables and things that they were coming to buy. So it was very cute. They do a lot of good educational programs. There is yoga at the barn. So they do a lot of different programs, a lot of good for the community. And it's just a beautiful space. There are 5 miles of walking trails. There is a labyrinth on the ground as well that's mowed in the tall grasses.
Wow.
So back to the medicine wheel. Several years ago, I was asked to set Sun Bear's medicine wheel on the grounds. And so we did that in a ceremony like I described before. And they wanted it to be a permanent wheel. So for 5 years, we did have it as a permanent wheel. And then it was just a little too much to take care of and all the weeding, and they didn't have enough help to be able to do that, to maintain it the way it needed to be maintained. So we ceremonially disassembled the structure of the wheel, and we kept the outer circle and the inner circle so that it still can be used as a place for meditation. I just felt responsible, if it wasn't going to be used as Sun Bear's wheel, to let's disassemble Sun Bear's wheel to honor the respect of that tradition, and then recreate it in a way that Crown Point could continue to maintain. But in that picture, you can see us in one of our ceremonies literally walking in and out of those pathways.
And that was my whole point of, so people can actually see
Yes.
you're literally walking the medicine wheel.
Yes. And as you know, at the conferences we did every year in Virginia Beach, we had a conference room, and every day we set a medicine wheel, and it was large enough within that conference room that we walked the medicine wheel in and out of its pathways. And the wheel was created out of a number of different materials. Sometimes it was stones, crystals. One time it was stuffed animals. So a medicine wheel could be made out of any materials, as long as it's done in respect to the tradition and honoring the ceremony.
And that was one of the biggest things that just floored me. It was an amazing time, and I had only been able to attend very short periods of time, but it was an amazing thing. Now, I'm going to stop before we talk or go into a lot of the pictures that you have, because I've got a lot of questions, and I've got some things that went, but I want to stop where we are in case there are people in either the Facebook room that would like to ask a question in the chat, or there are also people that are watching on the YouTube live channel. If any of you have questions, please go ahead and type them out in the chat, because I can see both of them, and we'll make sure that they get asked. But even Pat was able... Pat, how many years did you attend?
14.
Oh, my. Pat, did you learn something every time that you were down there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Always. And you come home and people go, you were down in Virginia again, weren't you? Because it would take, they would give us re-entry instructions, right, Nancy?
Yes,
so that we could come back into, because you were on such a high down there, the healing energy, the things you were learning, the family bonds you created with those people. And then there was some lady named Nancy that always made us get up and exercise between speakers. And I never made it outside, but I would watch her from my balcony with my coffee when she was early in the morning on the walk. But yeah, it was fascinating. And it would literally take me at least 2 weeks to come back to, okay, you're home now. You gotta kind of, settle down here.
Nancy, can I get you to do something for me? You don't have to stand up and do this. Can you describe how you got people to relax by imagining a string that passed from them to the center of the earth?
Well, actually, I got that from Buzz. So for people who aren't familiar with our community, this is the for-purpose community. Originally, it was called the on-time community. Okay, here's a funny story. You have astrologers, right, who attend? Okay. I am not an astrologer, so the astrologers are going to get a kick out of this. I was introduced to Buzz's tapes. Back then, they were cassette tapes. And this friend of mine introduced me to this. And I started listening to these tapes, and he talking all this astrology stuff. And he would say, blah, 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 whatever. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then he would say, the moon is void, of course. And I thought, well, I don't know what moon void means. I thought, of course, meant, but it's something everybody knows but me, moon void. Of course the moon is void. I had no idea what that was. So now at least I know it's talking about a course of the moon transiting something, whatever all that means. So I joined the group thinking, I have no idea what they're talking about. But these are really cool people. So that was my entry into the community. Where was I going with all that? Anyway, so the string. Buzz once gave this visual, and so I've kept it and I've used it. He said, imagine that everyone on the earth is standing right now. And we can do that right now. Just imagine everyone on the earth is standing. If there were a cord that ran through us, all the way down through our centers, in the center of the earth, in the very center of the earth, we all are connected. And I just always loved that visual. And then there were a couple other of the elders who always imagined throwing up this string up to the heavens, and we have this other cord connected. But that one of Buzz's was the one I always liked. If we have this cord running through us at the center of the earth, if we all were standing, we all are connected at the center of the earth. I loved that visual. So others had other cords doing other things, but that was the one that I connected to the most.
And that's the one that stuck with me because you had turned around and you were trying to get people to get their body relaxed and moving again. So you told us and you said, now imagine somebody holding on to the top of that cord
Yep.
and that your arms are loose like a marionette and they start shaking that cord up and down. What are your arms going to do? And we're all sitting here and bouncing. And if you were to look around the room, you would think that we're, I don't know what.
Bunch of howdy doodies.
Yes, but it was so, when she was done, we stopped, and I swear there was not a person in that room that was not fully relaxed. It was amazing. It was just amazing.
You reminded me about what it was exactly that I was doing. That was the visualization. What you're describing, it's a Qigong exercise that I learned from my Qigong master. And I don't know how far I can go. Okay, so here we go. Can you see me? Can you see me now? All right. So it literally is bending from the knees and just letting the body go. Nice and relaxed, arms loose, hanging out. And it literally is a Qigong exercise. And we want to build up to a couple minutes of it and be childlike and very playful and relaxed. And so the arms are like ropes, just dangling nice and loose. And after you do that for a couple minutes, you absolutely feel that buzzing. And what we really literally are doing is feeling that support from the heaven chi, heaven energy above, and the earth chi below, and realizing we have a center of our human chi right in the center of our heart. And literally what we are doing is opening up blockages to energy flow that's flowing through these different meridians. A perfect visualization is if you have a piece of glass and metal shavings on top of that glass, magnets underneath, and you shake that glass, what's going to happen to those metal shavings? All of a sudden they're going to like move around, and then get lined up. That's what we're doing with our energy grid, with our energy meridians, connecting to the earth energy below, heaven energy above, and we've got that human chi right here in relationship to those. So that was that exercise that we did.
Finding your balance.
Yes.
It was.
And opening up blockages to it. That's the big thing. We have it. We have the instincts. We've gotten away from them sometimes.
It is that one thing that stuck with me above everything else. Not only because while I'm doing this, I'm very self-conscious because I'm a little bit of a larger guy. So I'm self-conscious and I'm thinking I look like an idiot. And a minute later, because I'm watching all these other people, and there was no judgment, no nothing. Just a group of people enjoying what they were doing and laughing and having a good time as a community.
Yes.
And when we got done, everybody was just smiles. Yes. I mean, 100% smiles.
Yes.
And relaxed.
Yes.
That's what I remember. And I'm like,
Good.
Okay, what we're going to do is there are some people, and I've seen people kind of bouncing in and out, watching part of the show. There are some people on YouTube, but we're going to take just a couple of minutes and take our interlude. When we come back, I want to start talking a little bit about some of the pictures that you have done.
Okay.
And how people can actually use the medicine wheel in their own personal life. Because, folks, I'm telling you, you won't get it until you see it in action. But we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Great.
Coming back with tonight's special guest, Nancy Gardner, who is teaching us this evening about the medicine wheel. And so far we have learned about the wheel, the construction, and the nuances that can be present. But what she's going to do now is show you how you can actually use this in your own life so that it becomes a personal kind of thing. And we were talking and chatting during the interlude. There is so much that can happen and so many things that can be used. It's not even funny. Nancy, I'm going to ask you, where in all of this would you like to start in all of those pictures that we have?
So I won't be seeing what you're going to put on the screen, is that right? Or will
Correct. Yeah, I don't have a way that I can share that directly to you.
Well, I guess
this is what we start and show people.
Tell me which ones you're looking at, and I'll have to I'll describe them.
Well, the very first one that I'm going to show people is and this people, and I want people that are watching or going to be listening on the podcast, please understand the term altar in this is used in a metaphysical, in a both religious, in many different ways, okay? I don't want you to think of altar as in strictly a theological concept. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yes. Because the first one is the Tibetan bowl that you have on your altar. That's the one that I'm going to show people right now.
Okay. So I do call that my altar, and the 4 outer crystals always are there, and then the creator sometimes changes, and then I have the in-betweens. So we don't just jump from spring to summer, there's a transition. Those also relate to the phases of the moon, which we don't have to get into right now. I often will have the 4 directions and the in-betweens, those in-betweens. The Tibetan bowl, probably that time, I was feeling like I just wanted to have an openness and just be open to whatever might come in. The 4 crystals, I have them facing so that they are going around clockwise and starting from the east on the right. And then when the season would change, I would point that one into the center. So not having that visual right in front of me, whichever one is pointing to the center, that's the season that we're in.
The north.
Okay, so that was a north wheel at the time. My wheels, when I set them or change them, sometimes I might be walking by and somebody will say, oh, it's time to change, or I want to go somewhere else, or some other object in my house says, me, I want to be part of the wheel. And so they change up, and I don't necessarily do it at seasonal changes. I just do it when it seems to feel right.
Now, in this in particular picture, you had mentioned earlier that you had the Tibetan bowl. Sometimes when you walked by, you might make the bowl sing a little bit.
Yes. Sound vibration has a healing effect. The Tibetan bowls, it's all, different ways to connect to spirit.
Very much so. The next one that I'm going to show people is the wheel that you have set for abundance.
Oh, yeah. It was probably one of those times. Being self-employed and my income fluctuates dramatically, I decided to put in the center abundance and just let that flow however that was going to flow.
And this is important, and I want people to see this, because this is working with this in particular fashion, the medicine wheel, to help create abundance in our lives. And this is exactly what she is doing. Now, the southern crystal is pointed in, and that would denote that it was summertime, if I'm not mistaken. You know, and now let me ask, how long would you leave a particular wheel like this up or together?
The crystals would change during the season. Everybody else changed when it felt right, and it wasn't necessarily within a season or a certain time frame or anything like that. And again, when we're talking about creation, I want to remember to say this too. We are co-creating our reality with what we do, with what we don't do, with what we eat or don't eat or drink or don't drink, whether we exercise or we don't. We're creating our own reality. And so I want to participate with that in as most positive way as I know how. And again, finding all the balance between the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual aspects.
The next one that I'm going to show people is your elder wheel that you had set together. And this has a lot of material in it.
Do you want to let me know what some of those are?
Yeah, you have the large crystal in the south. You have a dragon that is the transition between summer and fall. You have your, I want to call her your little Tai Chi lady in the middle
Oh, yeah.
as the
Okay.
creator.
Okay.
What would you set an elder wheel for? And this one evidently is the one crystal on the west. So it was fall time when you set this in particular.
All right. Relationships. Yes. Well, I kind of call them my elders because they're all kind of my teachers. I've been training in martial arts for a long time, 34 years or so, and teaching professionally. And dragons are important. Dragons started getting important to me through our community, actually, when one of the speakers started talking about making friends with our dragons, naming our dragons. If we can, and what he was talking about, naming our dragons, is our dragon being negative? Is it some addiction? Is it, whatever that dragon might be? Once we name it, we can acknowledge it, make it our ally, and learn and grow and move beyond that. So all of a sudden, a lot of dragons started coming in, as you'll see later in some other pictures.
It was in that. The next one I'm going to show people is what you called your busy wheel.
Yes. Those objects all wanted to be there. I was there. I'm moving all kinds of stuff around. And then my life was really, really hectic. And when I walked by one day, I'm like, well, yes, because I have so much going on right there. And so it was after that time, and I don't have a picture of every wheel I've ever set on my altar. I totally cleared things out and just simplified the wheel. And for a while, just had the 4 crystals and a creator. If my life is really busy, I look, well, yeah, my wheel is really busy. I'm going to pull some of that out and simplify my life and give myself a little bit of space to breathe. So that one was my busy wheel. I'm like, okay, I don't want to leave you up too long because I need to simplify a little bit.
The next one that you had a picture of was the altar and with just dragons.
Okay.
You had your main crystals and then you had 4 dragons
Yes.
on.
Yeah, dragons started getting to be pretty important to me, and then they became my friends.
And that again was, this one is in the north. Is a crystal that you have pointing to creator. And that one I found interesting. Now you have and I'll bring this up just a little bit out. You had from the For Purpose group, Melody, who is also part of our show, had done a 9-stone
Yes.
medicine wheel for you.
Right.
And that's a picture that I have up right now.
Yes. I specifically asked her to do that. She got her own stones for me. And what I wanted to do is create a moon phase medicine wheel, because that was a big part of what we did in Virginia Beach. So the 8 stones are the 8 phases of the moon. And again, we start in the east. Now, the photo I took, I put east on the bottom because I was looking at it as a walking wheel and I'm entering from the east. So they also relate to the colors of the chakras. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, white. So the colors of the chakras are there. All of the moon phases are there. And what I asked her to do was the red stone, I wanted to have seeded through the one who came before. So the red stone has white letters, orange one has red, and so on, because that is what life is all about. We are who we are by what came before, the different influences we had, where we can choose to take what we have received or not, and how does that contribute to who we are and how we're going to move forward. So I asked her to create the phase wheel for me out of stones in those specific colors. And she did her own artistic thing with the shapes of the moons to show what those moons look like at each one of their phases. And then the next shot of what she did, I asked her to do the 4 directions, just paint on those something that was significant to me. So I just had different symbols that I had her paint on those, that I could turn it over, and then it becomes my personal wheel.
And that itself was, to me, a very awesome kind of thing.
Yes.
The next thing, Pat had mentioned earlier about a simplified wheel. Now,
Yes.
I'm going to show this picture of the medicine bag that you have that has the 8 phases of the moon.
Yes. I put it, it just has 8 stones, right? And one in the center that has a pointy end on it.
Mm-hmm.
The right one? Yeah. So I picked stones one time when I was in Virginia Beach, and I tried to get as red a stone, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And just those 8 stones and one in the center can also be a medicine wheel. And it fits in a little medicine bag that I can wear around my neck. And so I can always have an 8-phase wheel with me wherever I go. I picked that particular stone because if I wanted to, I could just, it's just very small, as you can tell. I could just sit down on a tabletop or on a plate and move it around. And if I wanted to, I could turn that pointer to whatever phase we were in. The phases of the moon change every 3.5 days. So if at some period of time I wanted to follow what phase the moon was in every 3.5 days, I could just point it to whatever color that was for that phase. So I can easily follow the phases of the moon there. The phases of the moon also are expressed throughout a whole year, also in 45-day periods. And that could be a whole other topic for another day, talking about moon phases and life cycles. And it really is all part of the medicine wheel.
What I found extremely interesting in this particular picture, if people are tracking the phases of the moon, and the pointer stone in the center is pointing to a particular, what the phase is right now, it helps them see things that they have been receiving in the last few days,
Yes.
and it gives them a little bit of an insight as to what might be coming
Yes.
over the course of the next 3.5 days, as well as what they are currently experiencing.
Yes.
I mean, and this is what hit me with so many small nuances. I could not get over that.
Yes.
Now I'm going to switch back over here so that we're all kind of back here on the same page. Do either Pat or Stephanie, do you have any questions as we have gotten this far?
Nancy, can we walk it with our fingers? Do we have to physically walk it?
Oh no, absolutely with your fingers. Even just visually looking at it. I mean, it's there. It's there. Absolutely. I have one of those little labyrinths that just has the little needle thing, like it's too small even for my finger. So even that has its own spiritual, meditative, whatever perspective you need at the time. Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and toot my own horn here. You and I discussed before the show about Sun Bear and the teachings of Sun Bear. I literally, I made a CD. It's called Journey Through the Medicine Wheel. And it was something that I set down, and I think I just kind of channeled it. I just kind of wrote it out. And a friend of mine, my husband and I, we used to have a recording studio. And another friend who writes music. And then my lodge teacher we did lodge together, and he's a water pourer and his wife's a pipe carrier. They came in and they did the voices of the eagle, the bear, the coyote, and the white buffalo was the neighbor guy down the street. So it's just really, it's just kind of like journeying through the medicine wheel. So it's just somebody that she lays down or he lays down, you lay down on the rock in the middle, your center, and then your guide, who was a Native American, comes to you and helps you journey through each one. And the eagle speaks to you, the coyote speaks to you, the bear speaks to you, and the buffalo speaks.
Nice.
And yeah, it's so, I did this probably about 4 or 5 years ago. and the music in it is just beautiful. The guy that did the music to it is just awesome, and yeah. So when you're talking about Sun Bear, when I was actually doing a lot of reading of Sun Bear's material and stuff and the teachings, and then I met another Native American teacher also. His name is David Singing Bear, and he actually put a medicine wheel on a friend of mine's property. There's some ley lines. I don't know if you know Lisa Rockwell or not.
No.
Okay, she lives in North Georgetown, but
Okay.
she has a medicine wheel on her property that David come in and set up for her, and we've actually done healings there, and I did some teachings there one day about walking through the wheel and stuff. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So I you're speaking to my heart.
Aw, nice.
Yeah. So.
After my very first conference, I came home and I'm like, I got to set a medicine wheel in my backyard. And I had a bunch of bricks behind my garage. They weren't mine. They were just here when I bought the house. And you know how spirit works. So I had a creator stone. And then I had a certain number of bricks that had 6 holes and a certain number of bricks that had 8 holes. And I had 4 solid holes. And honestly, I had maybe 2 bricks left over, but I had 4 that were solid. They were the 4 directions. And then I had 12 that had 3 holes and they were the outer circle. And I had 12 that had 8 holes. They were the pathways. I mean, who would have guessed, just the right amount there. And I do a martial art called Bagua. It's walking the circle, literally walking the circle. And so I set this medicine wheel up and I did my Bagua walking the circle around that medicine wheel in my backyard for a lot of years.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. I'll have to check out your piece there.
Yeah, it's you can find it on CD Baby or Amazon or CD Baby, Amazon.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, it's called Journey Through the Medicine Wheel.
Okay.
It's very relaxing.
Yes, Pat has it. Yes.
Okay.
You can fall asleep listening to it. And what I loved about it was I could visualize myself there, as you well know from being at Virginia Beach. I mean, we did a lot of visualization.
Yes.
And it's just fascinating.
I'm going to ask, and this, I think, for a lot of people, when you set your abundance wheel,
mm-hmm.
and you said you have like a pointer that you will actually walk the wheel with your pointer, correct?
That was with a little labyrinth that I have. I have a little metal labyrinth that I do the pointer wheel with.
Okay.
I don't necessarily do the pointer with my altar wheels.
Okay. When people are doing that, what should they be concentrating on? Is it something that they have put in the wheel? As in, or should they be looking at their intent and where they are at on the wheel? Or how should they go about doing that in their mind's eye in order to receive and energize this wheel as much as possible?
Any and all of those things. Sometimes my wheel, I'm just walking by because it's right at the base of my steps and I'm passing through and it just reminds me to stop and take a breath. Or I keep the little cards when people pass away that you get at the funeral home. And when somebody has passed, I put them on the wheel and I stop and I say a prayer for them. And I keep them in a shelf underneath the wheel. If they're not on the top, they're right there. Sometimes I pull them all out and I spread them out. So it could be just that stopping to become aware. Or it could be just, let me stop and say, what's this season all about? It could be any and all of those things. One of Buzz's phrases was always, give it to the wheel. When we're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. He'll say, give it to the wheel. Just give it to the wheel. That doesn't mean that we're not responsible for doing something or praying or seeking guidance from others. We have to do our part also, and yet give it to the wheel. And one of his phrases always used to be too, it's just a transit, so we're going to pass through these things. So it's a place to just walk by to take a breath. It's a place to put an intention. Like that time, I must have been having a time of, I needed some financial assistance or abundance, that I was going to put that intention there and allow that to come in any way it wanted to come in. So any and all of those things that you said, that is what it is. But intention is huge. Intention is huge.
And that's the one thing. There is so much information that goes with all of this. And I don't want to oversimplify and I don't want to overcomplicate for anybody that has, if this is their first introduction to a medicine wheel, this could be in moments something that is overwhelming. And I definitely don't want that to happen.
Right.
But I'm hoping that people can begin to see this energetic of what they can be doing, not only, as you mentioned, co-creating, but at the same time being aware of where they are in a particular season and what is going on and why.
Yes, yes. Well, and other things too. Sometimes I'll walk in a room, not think too much about it, and just stop and say, what direction am I facing? And when we go back to simplifying, east is self, south is family, west is relationships, north is purpose. So sometimes I'll just walk in a room or I'll just find myself standing like, what now? I mean, how many of us, and we were talking before the show started, have so many things going on all at the same time. Sometimes I have so much going on that I just sit down and I turn on some recorded TV and just zone out. You know, sometimes I have so much going on, I go take a walk. I don't have time to go take a walk, and that's exactly what I need to do. Sometimes I just stand in the center of a room and I just stop and say, oh, what direction am I facing? And then I can ask a question. Does it have to do with self, family, relationships, purpose? Or I can direct the direction I'm going to stand. In other words, if I have a question about self, step outside and face the east and ask your question. And when I'm facing self, my relationships have my back, and vice versa. Or if I have a question about family, I face south. Family and purpose are the axis on the wheel. And I've said this often, regardless of what family we came into, you know, whether it was like, I didn't get enough attention because I'm a middle child, you know, it's like that also formed who I am and gave me the strengths that I have. You know, so no matter what the family situation was, family and relationships, you know, or family and purpose. Wait a minute, let me get this. Self and relationships. Yeah, self and relationships, family and purpose. So I came into a family, the middle child, but then that helped me be independent, seek guidance in other ways that then put me on my path of purpose. When we say purpose, we're talking higher purpose. So we can look at the axes, we can look again at the directions and face the direction that we're seeking guidance and just be open to whatever that might be.
Now, since you're talking about that, there were a couple other pictures that I really want people to take a look at.
Okay.
This one that I'm going to show people is you have an actual room in your home, your meditation room. Yes. And you set wheels in that room and you will leave them there sometimes for lengthy periods of time.
Yes.
This one you had entitled My Guides. Yes. To where it is showing all of, and you have a Buddha. Mm-hmm. You have the elephants for family. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the gold statue is, and I can't remember.
North.
I'm sorry.
It's North Purpose.
No. Okay.
What do I have on the right? The statue, the native statue.
Yes.
With the bear on top.
Yes.
Yeah. That's self. Yeah.
And you had mentioned that there are times that you in the upper left-hand corner. For the people that are listening in this is a room-sized medicine wheel to where if she wanted to, she could literally walk this wheel. But what she said that she does is that there are times she will remove the creator side and take the little chair that is there and put herself in the middle of this medicine wheel and meditate and literally think about things.
Yes.
Let me ask you, why do you do that?
Oh, it's great energy for one thing. It's
Yes.
great energy. And again, I'll either sit on the floor, or I'll sit on that little chair, and I will mindfully face whatever direction I feel like I need, or whatever guidance I need. And from the center of the wheel, and sometimes I just go in and it's just like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I don't necessarily guide it. I'm guided to whichever direction. Again, if we look at it as we are in the center of the wheel, we are co-creating our own reality. And what I was saying before about the axes, with me being in the center, I always look at whatever's on my left side is the receptive energy. What energy am I receiving? And whatever is on my right side is the outgoing energy. Whatever's in the front is my focus. And then I've got somebody's always got my back. So I'm always surrounded by those energies. And we actually did this at Virginia Beach, where we would take turns being in the center of the wheel. And down there, we would walk around the person and just send all kinds of good energies. Sometimes we would be drumming our drums around them and getting that sound vibration going. So it's a very powerful experience. And just know that I am the creator of my own reality, and I'm not doing it all by myself. All of life is surrounded by me. All of life is part of self, family, relationships, or purpose.
And Nancy, when you're kind of doing these kind of ceremonies, and that's what it is, ceremony.
Absolutely.
You actually start feeling, you talked about the frequency and the vibration, and you start really feeling the ancestral pull.
Yes.
Of those energies from, yourself and from spirit and from all of the other indigenous tribes all over the world, that ancestral pull of the teachings, because they're very simplistic.
Yes.
There's some things that you can make it so difficult, but it is really very simplistic.
Yes.
And I think that's what people need to understand, that there is a very simple side to this. Mm-hmm. And it sometimes we make it harder than what it needs to be.
Yes. And we need to remember it's an earth-based practice. In our culture, we're so far away from earth-based practices. We have 24/7 lights. We have 24/7 cell phones. We have all of this technology stuff. We've gotten away from our instincts and from feeling the earth and feeling that connection and like you said, the simplicity of it. It doesn't have to be that complicated. We can unplug. Right. We can take that quiet time.
Exactly.
Pat, what was one thing when you were there, I believe, when Nancy was talking about the medicine wheel a couple of different times, but there was one in particular that she had mentioned. How did, not only what she was saying, but how did that impact you? I mean, you personally, I know you, but how did that impact you as a person and as a reader?
Oh, it gave me a whole new outlook. We talk about, we know what we're in right now, and we're worried about the in-between. We know what we want the ending to be, but how to get there. And it brought this sense of peacefulness. It's like, I don't have to carry this by myself. I can, as Buzz would say, give it to the wheel, ask for help, ask for guidance was the biggest thing I always got. And I wouldn't even be aware that I was getting answers, because maybe I thought about that on Friday or Thursday, and here it's Saturday morning, and I'm just walking the wheel because we're getting ready to start the program. And it's like, oh, or you're sitting there and stuff would just come to you. It helped you to be in a quieter space, a better space. I think it helped us to ground. Being next to the ocean didn't hurt, because you could put your issue out there and let the waves carry it away. It was just fascinating. It's like time suspended for us. When they called it an intensive, man, it was an intensive, whether you came on Friday night and stayed through Monday, or you came on Thursday and only got to stay Friday and maybe Saturday morning. It just gave you a whole new outlook on life, period. Yeah. Things weren't so important anymore.
And it becomes life-changing.
It did. It really did.
Yeah, it becomes life-changing.
It was for me. And it was one of those things. Now, As Nancy had said, her first time there, this is nothing but astrologers at the beginning of all of this. This was a group of astrologers, and the first time, Pat,
Yes,
I don't
Michael, I don't
remember.
know anything about astrology. Why would I want to go there?
And I asked her that very thing.
Just come, Michael. You'll see.
And the first year, she goes, "You just have to be here." And I'm thinking,
Have to be. Remember when Buzz gave us those little bees, that little bumblebee thing that we put on the pin that said "Just Be"? We had a button pin that said "Just Be," and one of the gals had brought little bumblebees. You know, when the wire wrap and you put it on your pin, and it was "Just Be."
well, I'll tell you what. The first year that I was there, I had no clue what I was getting into. I'm a metaphysical reader. I have no clue about astrology. I walked away from that changed.
Hooked.
Yeah, just changed because it opened up literally a whole new avenue to the way that I look at things.
You stepped outside the box.
Oh, it was so far outside the box, sweetheart. It wasn't even funny.
And inside the
You
circle.
stepped out, right? Yeah, and walked the wheel of life.
It snuck up on me, and like Pat said, you're so immersed in this because everybody's working together that the world goes away. All that was during that period of time was the room that I was sleeping in, the room that we had in the conference, and the beach right outside. That was it. And I don't remember much of anything else except being there. And then the night that we had done, I can't even remember. Everybody took their pillow downstairs, and we had a shaman's journey.
Quest.
Yeah.
Vision Quest.
Vision quest.
Vision quest.
That was amazing. But I've got
Have any of you ever done a sweat lodge?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome, isn't
I've
it?
done a few. Yes. I actually led one once also. And when I did, I said, look, I am not native trained or ordained or whatever. The sweat that I'm going to bring you is the medicine wheel. And I talked about the creator, the 4 directions, and the 12 moons. And I covered one quadrant in each of the rounds. We did 4 rounds where it opened
Right.
in between.
Right, we did too.
So I just made it really clear. This is what I'm coming. This is where I'm coming from. And I mean, no disrespect to any natives or any native traditions, and just to make it really clear. And it was really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, everybody probably that sat, you know, in that lodge probably got something totally different than any other lodge that they've been in.
Yes.
Sometimes that's what it takes, is to bring, you know, a different mentor, a different teacher, a different water pour to come in and teach something. That's what it's there for.
I know that I learned so much just from the intensive at Virginia Beach. It's not even funny. Yes, Pat.
Well, you know, and being there and seeing the wheel set, and then if you participated in, I mean, we're all sitting back going, okay. But when they ask you to participate, that added a whole nother level to it. And I remember the one with the hands, especially. You know, different years we would do different things, and we had made hands. Physical, what were they, 3 feet, Nancy? Some they were big.
They were large.
They were all decorated differently because each one of the groups for the intensive decorated a hand.
And it related to the phase of the moon too. Yeah.
And you know, it's great and everything, but boy, when you participated and then you really got the understanding of the energy, because you're standing there and you go into this respectful awe thing that you may not understand exactly the meaning of the stone you're setting, but you're enveloped in this wonderful feeling, and it's different. So if you set your own wheel, it's the same thing. Get the book, Dancing the Wheel by Sunbear. It's fascinating.
I remember that, Pat, because I was new. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and be a wallflower. There are no wallflowers in that group. I'm sorry. The more you try to shrink and hide in a shadow, the more someone will come and go, come here. And I'm sitting there minding my own business, and here comes Brian Coleman. He goes, you're next. Oh shit, really? I don't. He goes, I'll help you out. Don't worry. But
Yeah.
and this was all the way in the West, and I'm like, okay, but it was. There's no words really to describe that feeling, that emotion, or what you are being part of. It's amazing. And it's the one thing that I'm hoping that people that are either watching or going to be listening to the podcast, until you even begin to do something like this, you really don't know. And this is not something that is, you have to live your life this way. It is not something that people would say, oh, that's bad voodoo. So it's nothing like that. It is
Connecting
your,
to nature.
it is,
Connecting to nature.
yes, it's exactly that. Because it is you and your intention and building, and you are tapping into something that you had previously not known was present until you do it.
Tapping into your higher self,
Yes.
your divine self.
Just amazing. Now, there are two more pictures that because we're already past our hour, and I'm not going to keep Nancy all night. But Nancy, in your pictures that you sent, the one that I'm going to show people is called The Other Rooms. This one you labeled Vacations.
Oh, yeah.
And
Those are refrigerator magnets.
And that's what I want people to see. Talk to me about this one, if you would.
I have a lot of refrigerator magnets, maybe trips that I took or trips that a friend took, and she brings me back a magnet. So again, I don't even do this at a particular time or a month change or whatever. I just might be walking by and they grab me and say, hey, let's move this one around. So that one had to do with vacations that I took, fabulous vacations. One of them, Spain, two of those, the little tile ones, those are from Spain. So those were vacation. It's a vacation wheel. And it just reminds me of good times. It reminds me of friends. And again, I'll just take other magnets at other times and recreate it. And maybe sometimes it'll be an 8 around the outside and somebody in the center. So it just, again, when I walk by there, I just like, just take a breath, give gratitude for all that I have, for the abundance that I have, for the friends in my life. So different wheels just remind me of different things that I can just, and then go on.
The next one that I'm going to put up is your actual room, and it's simply entitled Dragons, because it is a medicine wheel of all dragons.
Yes, that's actually my living room. And I lead a study group. I call it Mindful Living now, and we meet 8 times a year when the phase of the moon changes in a year-long period. So anyway, that gets into it, but 45-day periods. So we start in spring as the new, and then 45 days later is the crescent, and then 45 days later is the first quarter. Anyway, so there are 8 of those in a year-long period. The meetings are at my house, and when we were going to start this new year, I thought, I'll set the wheel, and I intended to just put a few dragons, maybe one in the center and a few on the outside, and then I realized how many dragons I had. And so in this case, I did not place them in order. I just brought all my dragons around, and Copper Dragon jumped out and said, I'm in the north, I'm purpose, because I'm the biggest, and you have a big purpose. I'm like, okay. And then I just set them in the area that they told me they wanted to be in. So the little guy is in the east, and that's Spark. And he's kind of looking over his shoulder saying, really? Is that where we're going? And anyway, so then I have a pink and green one, and they kind of reminded me of my dad and mom. So I thought they could be opposite each other. And then I just set them where they told me they wanted to be. And then I stepped back and I asked what message was there for me. And I only intended it to be up for that meeting. And they decided they wanted to be up all year. So I swept around them for a whole year when I'd vacuum the carpet. And every time I would go by, or I purposely would go to the edge of the wheel and just sit and ask them, what's next? Or where do I need to be? Or I might look at what dragon was in what position for where we were in the month or where we are in the year-long cycle, or it could just be going by saying, hey, thanks for being here. So it could be any and all of those things.
And that was one of the ones that just floored me. Again, because you said you left it up for a year.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that you just took down. You left that whole thing up for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an amazing thing in and of itself. I dare anybody, I love my wife Shelley very much, I dare anybody to put something in one place and leave it there for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So just the concentration that it takes to leave that there for its purpose was amazing to me. It really was.
Well, I'm also a licensed massage therapist, and my massage practice is upstairs. So my clients just get used to seeing all kinds of weird stuff when they're passing through my house, from a big old sword in the kitchen to, dragons in the living room,
Now, before we finish for the evening, I want people to have a better understanding of what you have been listening to and watching this evening. This is Nancy Gardner. She is, am I correct in saying, a Tai Chi master?
People at my level call themselves master. I don't particularly like to use that word because it just has a lot of connotations that I don't go with. People at my level, yes. If I were competing in tournaments, it would be in the master's black belt levels. I don't like the term. Yes, people would say that at my level. I've been training 34 years and teaching, 25, and yeah. So.
And that's what I did not think that you would like the title or anything like that. And I'm like, no. But you have been at this a long time. It's not that you are somebody that is just coming out of nowhere. You compete worldwide. Am I not mistaken?
Yes, I did. I was in China once with my martial arts master, and specifically to compete in a tournament. And I did win a gold medal for my Tai Chi form and for my Tai Chi sword form. So that was pretty cool to compete in.
And these are questions
in China.
These are questions that I'm asking you because you would never say any of this. Mm-hmm. How many competitions have you been to? And I will put it simply that you have either won or come in very close second or third.
Oh.
Seriously, I'm asking.
I don't know. I did compete in a lot of tournaments, international tournaments. My Chinese martial arts teacher would have one every year. He doesn't even live in this area now. And so it's been quite a while, since I've competed. But I've competed in a lot of international competitions, and I've won a lot of golds and silvers.
See, and these are things that I want people to know, that you have heard about the medicine wheel from someone that is intrinsically well known, not only worldwide for what she does, but for who she is and other avenues of her life. You are also, and I will not even try, because I'll slaughter what it is actually named, the type of healing is called...
Qigong, is that what you're talking about?
Thank you.
Yes. Qigong. Mm-hmm. Qigong, well, I am a certified instructor of Tai Chi and other martial arts, and I do train in the hard styles and do teach some hard styles also, but primarily my focus is on the internal styles, which include Tai Chi and Bagua that I mentioned before, this walking in the circle, and there's another internal style called Shini. Those are the internal styles of martial arts. That is my primary teaching focus. And then in addition to that, I also have studied Qigong. Qi is just the Chinese word for life force energy. Gong means work or practice, benefits acquired through perseverance. And so I have studied with a lot of different Qigong masters, and with my martial arts teacher have learned Qigong practices. Then in 2007, I met my Qigong master, Robert Pang, and I started studying more of his Qigong. And I loved his work. From the first time I met him, he said, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I'm like, that's my next teacher. Because I'm so grateful for my first American teacher, David Shank, where I learned the foundation, and he was always get lower, and we trained hard and sweated a lot. And then I started studying with his Chinese master for 10 years. I studied with his Chinese master, who could then give me the flavor that you get from someone of that culture, Master Yang. And then I started studying, and a lot of these overlap, but studying with Master Pang and putting the spirit to it, because Qi is our life force energy. Qi is spirit. I even asked my nuns if I could say that. And my nuns are like, yeah, it's the same thing. Spirit, Qi, you can say that. Because, whatever. So I have studied with him, have taken all of his essential practices, and then took his teacher certification course. Actually, I took it twice because I just loved being in that energy so much. So I am a certified RP Qigong instructor from him, as well as martial arts and Qigong and other things from my martial arts master. So all of those combined. And I'm a massage therapist. And before that, I was in marketing and advertising. So throw all that together, it works.
She sleeps sometimes. Really, she does. Honest people. At least 2 or 3 hours a night.
Oh, yeah. Way more. Way more.
You also go out and teach form in public.
Yes. I have 3 businesses, my ongoing massage practice, my ongoing Tai Chi classes, and then the other part are wellness programs. So I do a variety of things. Sometimes it might be just a sampler class of Qigong or Tai Chi, and mine are always action-oriented. As those of you who went to Virginia Beach know, I'm all about getting people moving. And then I do a corporate wellness program that I call Energize Your Day. The first time I was asked to teach a stress management program, I decided we hear enough about stress management. Instead, we're going to talk about energizing your day and learning how to control the things we can. And so rather than a lot of me blah, blah stuff, I pulled together some of the most effective practices from my martial arts, from Qigong, from yoga classes, from polarity therapy, from all of the different disciplines I've studied for 30 some years. And I have illustrations of all of these things that I teach in the corporate world. And what I suggest to people is, if you would just get up for 10 seconds once an hour and do one of these things, you will feel better, you will be healthier, you will be thinking more clearly, you will be more effective in your work, in your life, in whatever that might be, having fewer aches and pains. I mean, in the work world, who's got time to take a 5-minute stretch break? Everybody can take 10 seconds once an hour. Mm-hmm. And even myself, I get going on one of my programs, and next thing you know, I'm in front of my computer for an hour, 2 hours, and I'm like, get up, do something. So it's not always just get up and walk. It's get up and do something specific. If your back bothers you, you can do this or this or this. If your neck bothers you, you can do this or this or this. You sit in front of a computer, you need to do certain stretches to help your hands and prevent carpal tunnel type things. So all of those things I combine and do into this Energize Your Day wellness program.
That's what I was trying to get to.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell me, or tell the audience, if you would, how can people get in touch with you on any of the above subjects?
Okay. My website is www.ngenergy.us. And people used to say, even in the corporate world, they're like, where do you get all your energy? I'm like, I don't know. It's just me. So when I started my own business, NG, Nancy Gardner, NG Energy was pretty perfect, because massage therapy, polarity therapy, martial arts, Qigong, it's all energy anyway. So ngenergy.us. My email is nancyg@ngenergy.us. And my phone number, 330-945-5533. It's a landline, so don't text me on that one. I have to say that these days.
It's true. Otherwise, somebody would try to send you a chat or a text or something.
Yeah, I got that before.
So everybody that is either in the Facebook chat or that was live on YouTube, and everybody listening to the podcast, you have been listening to Nancy Gardner speaking about the medicine wheel. But you've also heard she has a lot of capabilities in her tool belt that she uses in her own personal life. Tonight was just one of those. A major one, but one of what she does. Nancy, thank you, honest to God, so much for joining us this evening. It has been...
Thank you.
It has been a phenomenal evening. Believe it or not, we have been at this for an hour and 20 minutes and better, and time just flies.
It does.
Thank you, Nancy, very much.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you.
Great to see you, Nancy.
Thanks, Pat.
So for everybody else, we will join you again next week, live on Terra Turas, Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can join us on through Facebook at Terra Turas. You can join us on YouTube. You can check out our website at www.terraturas.com. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week. I hope that everybody has a great weekend. And if you get a chance, please check Nancy's website out and see how she can help you. Until next week, everyone, have a great evening.
Good night.
Bye.